Have you heard the three things that Mud Creek and heaven have in common? Food, fellowship, and Highway 72 may get you to both places quicker than you think, so drive carefully. I'm James Jeffrey, pastor of Mud Creek Baptist Church. I tell people the best kept secret in Jackson County is in Mud Creek, and it's Mud Creek Baptist Church. 10 minutes from Scottsboro, 8 minutes from Stevenson on the corner of Highway 72 and County Road 181. Look us up on Facebook, or better yet, come see us Sundays at 10:30 a.m. Mud Creek Baptist, making much of Jesus. Welcome to the Meet at the Creek podcast, and I'm your host, Pastor James Jeffrey. If you have questions or comments, send them to mudcreekpastor@gmail.com. That's mudcreekpastor@gmail.com. Meet at the Creek, sermons, discussions, and real talk. Let's get into it. All right, welcome into the Meet at the Creek podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Pastor James Jeffrey, pastor here at Mud Creek Baptist Church in Stevenson, Alabama. We're located exactly 1 mile past the Fackler Texaco if you're going towards Stevenson, and it's exactly 1 mile before the Fackler Texaco if you're coming from Stevenson, basically halfway between Scottsboro and Stevenson, just across the Hollywood city limit, town limit, whatever. Actually, if you go out to the highway out there, I believe it's still considered Hollywood. Only when you get a certain amount of feet off the highway is it actually considered Stevenson. So, but we're in Stevenson here where we are, and very thankful for all that the Lord's doing here. Very special guest with me tonight, Jackson County Commissioner, Mr. A.J. Buckner. A.J., good to have you on the podcast with us. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Pastor, for the invitation. It's an honor to be here.
Yes, sir. Well, we're Coach Buckner in the house, Brooke Bunch said. And there's Deputy Craig Holcomb. He's a member here. Hello, Doc Tater and Mr. A.J. Buckner. We're going to get a lot of these comments through the night, people who know you. So just prepare yourself for for some Jackson County shenanigans.
Yeah, of course. I'm glad you're working the board, not me.
Well, nobody ever gets out of this thing scot-free. So there's always seem like somebody has got something to say. People texting me back and forth, sending me messages and things like that. During the program, people may ask questions. Some will ask questions like, Brooke said you don't know her by Bunch, you actually know her by McGillian. So
that's exactly right. And I said that very loudly numerous times.
That's right.
Straighten up.
And I see you there, Craig.
But I said it McGillian.
That way she knows that she's special.
Exactly right.
Craig had asked earlier, he sent a message to our prayer group asking prayer for former Sheriff Mike Wells. Said that he'd had a stroke today, so we want to send our thoughts and prayers out to Sheriff Wells, and we hope and pray that the Lord sees fit to take care of him and that he makes full recovery, gets back up to full strength here before not too long, because there's very few good guys left in the world, and I hate to lose any of them. I'll just be honest with you, the world's a lot less better off with those guys gone. But I do understand the hope of heaven, and very thankful for that. And I'm glad tonight for my salvation. I'm glad for the hope I have in Christ. AJ, I know that's one of the things. I didn't know you. A few years ago, you came here and for the Riding for RJ event that we hosted here. And that's the first time I met you. And then got to talk with you a little bit this last time. And I just really, right off the bat, I had voted for you. I'll be honest with you, because Stacy Lidwell told me to vote for you.
Stacy's a smart man. Yeah.
he he helped me out a whole lot, just with getting to know people, and because he knows a lot about everything and a lot about everybody. But he shared with me some of the things you believe, and those are questions that are important to me, and the vision that folks have for our county, for the people, the community that they serve in, because that's important to me. And the things that he shared with me about you, he said, you're not going to go wrong. AJ's he said he's a good boy. He's a good boy, but he says that about everybody, even when they're older than him. But I have found it to be the truth in the case. You've done a very, as far as I'm concerned, done a very good job.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you staying true to who you are.
Well, it's easier to be who you are than to try to be somebody you're not. And so I've been very fortunate to like you referenced Mr. Ledwell as being a good thought partner, good influence for you, help you out along the way. There's too many people to name, but my life has been blessed with tremendous people that have advised me, corrected me, put me on the right path, took enough time and initiative to make sure that I got the attention that I needed at that moment. And I'm not talking about a spoiling. I'm talking about the right advice, the right correction. And so it's wonderful to know that I was fortunate that way. And not everybody has the same situation. And so what I've tried to do with my professional career, with my public service, and certainly with membership in the church, is to try to pay back some of that was afforded me, to try to be as positive an influence as I can, without being disingenuous. I want to make sure that I've never pretended to live a perfect life or be a perfect person. There's only been one of those that's ever graced the planet. And so, but there's a big difference in walking the walk and talking the talk. You want to walk the way that you say, and it's not easy, but it's easier than suffering the consequences of not doing right. And by no means do I want to pretend that I've always made the right choices and done the right things. It's the lessons that you've learned from it. And hopefully you turn from that and go a better way.
Absolutely.
So in public service, that's where I've tried to be, is to take those blessings and treat people the way I want to be treated. Just having those conversations, and yeah, I know it's there's never going to be enough of anything. There's we'll never get everybody's road paved to satisfaction or all the services done exactly right. I mean, we've got some great things going in the county, and I just have to keep in mind that if you call me about your road not being paved, you don't want to hear about the other 50 miles of road we've got paved in the last year, because it's not your road.
Right.
And I have to remember that. I have to honor your desires and see what we can do to help you.
Yeah, I actually had a question about that earlier today on the post that I made. Somebody wanted to know about County Road 30.
Yeah, 30's a mess.
Yeah.
And if you've not driven 30's a beautiful, beautiful road. Going from Larkinsville to Woodville, if you've got time and you can pay attention and miss the potholes, it's one of the prettiest rides that you'll take. In fact, I've even in Washington, I talked to Representative Adderholt about the possibility of taking beautiful roads in Jackson County like 30 and making them kind of scenic pathways. And of course, they're going to tell you they can do what they can do, but that's neither here nor there. That's just the vision of a beautiful road like 30. And I'd love to pave 30. I'd love it to be, a tarmac like the runway. But we're going to piecemeal this thing together until we have an abundance of cash, and then we'll pave them all at one time. But that's a justified question. 30 is a road that definitely needs to be considered.
But if if you ever have an abundance of cash, don't tell any of your department heads, because I promise you they will come knocking.
Oh yeah. Well, and they should. I mean, they should be advocates for their department, and they should advocate for the services that they provide. And that's, I guess one of the more interesting things about service is that there's never enough money to do everything that needs to be done.
Right.
But we've just got to be good stewards about how we spend the money, so that when I say I'm going to do something, we do it. Or that's using the singular because it takes a lot of people to do it. But whatever we say we're going to do, we do our best to get it done, and we tell you the truth to the best of our knowledge.
Right.
So many people get into the commission and make the foolish mistake of, well, I'm going to pave everybody's road. Well, it's not that we've got.
It's not that easy.
Well, we don't have Fort Knox sitting down there that we can afford to do all that.
Right.
And so, I've tried to be a good steward of the money, and challenge our department heads. How can you do this a better way, and try to be good stewards of their money, so that when we do need something, we've got money to play with. So anyway, that's just a little background.
It's and I'm fortunate to have a guy like Stacy as my boss, because he shares a lot of insight and knowledge and about the inner workings of how things work, because he's served in so many different levels of local government. One of the things that I learned from him very early on, we talked about it when I had Councilman Ashburn on, a lot of decisions, especially bad decisions, have been made or are made not because of bad intentions, but because of bad information. I have found that to be absolutely true in almost all areas of leadership and in life. Even is most of the bad decisions that I make are because I didn't have all the information. When you get past that and then you figure things out a little bit, you look back and go, ooh, I would have done little things. I might have done the same thing, but I would have done this a little bit different along the way. Right. You can get to from A to D a whole lot quicker. Right. If you can just bypass B and C sometimes.
Yeah. No. It goes back to your question about County Road 30. If I pave County Road 30 because somebody asked to pave County Road 30, that's not a very mindful way of doing business. And so, like you say, what's the information missing? How long has it been since it's been paved? What's the traffic count on that road? What are the funding sources that we can use and apply for? And can we do grants? And can we partner up? Because there's parts of 30 that are in the city of Scottsboro. So can we partner up with them to pave a little bit of their part, and we pave ours, and maybe stretch it out a little bit? Those type things. But it's taking that data approach, which is frustrating with some people. I'll give you a perfect example, and I'll be shocked if we don't get asked about it. The mountain passes that are still unfixed, which is County Road 93 and 38. Those roads, while they've been washed out for, goodness, they were washed out before I got in office. So I'm gonna say 4+ years, probably bordering on 5. The problem with them is that they qualify for federal aid. Well, if anybody's ever done anything with the federal government, it is a dot the I's, cross the T, again, make sure everything falls into place. Or we can just go do it.
Right.
But if we don't do it the way that they're doing it, the way that they want it done, we won't get any money for it.
Right.
And so it's taken us longer, unfortunately, to get it done. But the data is finally coming in on 38 and 93, and thus we're going to be able to start going forward. And so in the last meeting we had, we voted to go forward with 38 because we don't have the information complete on 93 yet. And more than likely, unless it's an astronomical number, we will go forward because we have to pay for that in advance, and then we get our money back from the federal government. But if we hadn't gone through all those steps, we wouldn't have gotten any of the money, and we wouldn't be able to afford what's about to happen.
Right.
Because those type roads take a restoration. It's not just throw a load of chert down there and put some pavement on it.
Right. It's going to be. a chore.
Yeah, I mean, you're mega
It's
millions.
an undertaking.
Mega
It's
millions. Yeah.
it's not. I think in the last mayor election, Robin and Jim were debating about, and the subject about road paving came up, and I've said this before. One of my favorite lines of any debate I've ever heard was from Robin. He said, paving roads is not as easy as going down at Walmart and buying sacks of asphalt. That's just not how it goes. And I used to be one of those people that thought, well, it's easy. There's plenty of money. You got all these tax dollars. Well, now, I'm finding out about things like, home rule and all the things that are not available to our county that I just assumed were. I found out about the county gas tax, and how much of that the county actually gets, and then I see all these other entities that are begging, and come to find out they're the ones getting all the money, and and they're still out there acting like they're broke, and so many people just don't know how things go sometimes, and I found that to be so true. I started backing up and applying that same mindset to other areas in my life, in the ministry, and just in my work, and in other things that I do. Politics it's a real booger. If you don't pay attention to what's being said and how things are being said, sometimes you can really get hung up.
It's because often you're punished for telling the right out truth.
Yes, yeah.
Because if the people, again using 38 as reference, the people who have had to go around and go down 35 instead of State Road 35 instead of doing their traditional route down 38, they don't want to hear about it because they're being inconvenienced. And I understand that. And of course, I don't want to say, well, it's going to take 5 or 6 years for this process to play out. Of course, that was, 4 years ago, but we're getting closer to it. And so I applaud the people for their patience on it. But every time they have to turn and go down State Road 35 instead of the quickest route down to Langston, that's not what's on their mind. And we're all in about convenience. And something you alluded to, if let's just say, I don't know, Elon Musk decides he wants to vacation in Scottsboro, and he just throws millions of dollars down, here, there, and everywhere. And unless he is staying at the Jackson County Park, the commission is not going to receive a single penny of his expenditures. That's just not how it's set up. We don't get any sales tax, and so because of that, any growth that comes that doesn't directly impact us. And so the illusion is that we do have lots of money, but the reality is that any government entity is almost, I'm going to say 90 to 95% is set cost, that it's either earmarked for a specific thing or it goes straight to salary. And so there's very little discretionary money.
Yeah. I asked Ledwell if he wanted to be on, and he said, well, I just finished planting turnip greens, maybe next time. And I don't think he knows that we're still on the air. I don't think he knows that we just got started. But anyway, he's always fun to have conversations like these with, because he knows so much, and he can talk about things that other people can't, that you guys can't say.
Right.
Sometimes you wish you wouldn't say it at all. But anyway, that's just the kind of guy, he is, and he loves to tell the brutal truth. I found myself, kind of, the longer I stay around him, the worse I get about it. My wife tells me all the time, she's like, you've been around him, entirely too long. But, what I have come to admire about him, yourself, and there's a few other people that I've really gotten to know, and really paid attention to how you do things. He used to just constantly say, do what's right for everybody to the best of your ability. And sometimes it's going to cost you, and that's okay. If as long as it's what's right for everybody that you serve. I really found out in my life that, I brought that same mantra to this. That's where the whole making much of Jesus came from. Have a goal bigger than yourself. Do something for the multitudes, and try not to focus on yourself, because selfishness will get you so far. And that's kind of something that you mentioned. From my point of view, all I'm thinking about is me. Right. I want my road paved. I want all the potholes. It's my vehicle that's taking the pounding. It's a running joke anytime we see a politician's roads getting paved. If somebody on the council lives, whatever road they live on, and that thing could have been on the list for 13 years, right. But the day they start paving that councilman's road or that commissioner's road, you know what I mean? It's just automatically you believe that they got put ahead of you. When I started taking a step back and just breathing deep and saying, what are the facts? As Roger Brandon said, to tell you hello, then his first question is, what happened to the COVID money? That's another great topic. I honestly believe that Jackson County did pretty good by their allowance with that.
Yeah, what we've been able to do with the COVID money is leverage, mm-hmm. and that's it was really hard. And I'll just let's just say some neighboring counties that people had political aspirations, they handed it out like Christmas candy. I mean, they bought a lot of this, that, and the other. What we've tried to do is look at investments, particularly in water. Our water infrastructure is in great need of repair, and if you don't pay attention to infrastructure things, you will when they're not there.
That's right.
These aged water lines, bridges that are deteriorating rapidly, and a bridge to me is a lot more important than a pothole or paving, because you can go around a pothole or you can slow down and ride on a rough road, but you cannot cross a bridge that's fallen.
That's right.
And so we have to make these capital investments, and so a lot of that COVID money has been leveraged to help these water utilities run water lines or improve water lines or increase efficiency or to bring themselves up to code so that they can provide clean drinking water to the maximum number of people. I mean, one of the first ones that we did was right over here, not far from here. I mean, people literally looking at the river that couldn't have water, and so we were able to run water lines there that hadn't ever been there, which I didn't know we still had places that was completely relying on the well that wasn't completely off the grid, which there's some places easy to get off the grid here. I mean, you're not talking very far off 72 that didn't have water access.
2 years ago when we started this work here, that's when they were just getting the lines right here on this road and right out here. So it's not been too awful long ago that it was right here at the church even.
Yeah, and so that's an essential thing. And so and the sad part is that for you and I, when we see that kind of money, a lot of work can be done with that. But when you start talking in project wise, no,
it doesn't go very far.
There's not a whole lot that you can get done. And so the things that we have to do is looking at through that infrastructure. Yeah, we can dole it out for essentially pennies an hour raise that will have no impact, or you can do long-term things. And so that's what we've tried to do. We've taken a beating on that COVID money.
I bet.
I mean, really,
I bet.
That's one of those things where you just, and I don't blame Roger for his frustration on that. And something else. I mean, we approved the rescue squad to get new doors because I mean they were just completely unreliable. You would think, okay, that makes sense. Get them because we were using it as a testing center. It was the old armory there that's has multi-purposes. It took forever to get approval for those doors. I mean, again, you're talking federal money that has lots of strings attached to it, lots of things that have to be just completely spelled out. So anyway, it's that's a good question, but it's understandable why that's frustrating.
One of the things that I learned, I actually learned it last year. I attended a recycling conference because it's kind of what I do with the city, and there was a lady there from the EPA, and she was giving just a lecture about available money, and she got my attention. She got Stacy's attention too. I mean, it's something to the tune of $500 and something billion of available grant money, and only a small fraction, maybe 1/32 of the available money was used, and it was just rolling and rolling every year, back rolling. And we're like, man, we're in. Show us where to sign up. Well, then Stacy we get home, and he goes to checking in on it, and he comes in the office one day and sits down, and he said, "And now I know why nobody gets any of that money."
Right.
The application process alone was about a 5-year process. That's not counting the mounds and mounds every single day, mounds of paperwork that you have to do.
And that's just for the potential of it. That's not getting the money.
That's right. It's not even a guarantee. It's just for the maybe the opportunity to talk to somebody on the telephone,
right,
and say, "Can you help us out?"
So on that, one of the best hires we made was a lady named Misty that we've added to the commission office, and that's what she does. She chases grants and works through the application process, and and she works with all our departments. But having somebody that's able to dedicate their time to it, because if you take that director and say, "Hey, work on this grant," well, that's pulling them away from their job, or collecting the information, or follow-up calls, or following the deadlines. I mean, it's a lot of that stuff is a game, like you're alluding to. Making sure that you can do this, and I'd love to have 2 or 3 more, because again, going back to our original point, where we have to look at other avenues besides let's raise taxes on the people, which we can't even do anyway. I'm not advocating that, but I mean, if we see a need, we can't just go.
You guys couldn't do it if you wanted to, and I think that's a misconception amongst the majority of people that think that you can just raise taxes whenever you want to, and that's just not how it goes.
We don't have the authority. We don't have the authority. What our job is to take the money that is given to us and fairly allocated all through the county. I mean, it would be very easy to go, okay, well, who's the most popular, most powerful person? Let's just let them their pet projects. No, we make sure that the decisions that we make, that all our communities are fairly represented. Now, I mean, you might get a little more for this one year than that one, but if you look at the long history of it, the way the commission is designed, it's going to be fairly distributed. And so, we try to be conscious of that. And if a grant comes in for somebody, well, that person will take a step back and work it the other way. But we have to look at partnerships like that. And, state agencies, federal agencies, grants, partnerships with the cities, anything that we can do, and sometimes it's private sector. Sometimes we've worked with churches for things that they're working on, or maybe they're wanting to do something for the community, and we can help. We can't necessarily fund it, but we can, find some way of helping out. And, and that's the beauty of it, because again, I don't think you should ever have a government that provides all your needs. That's the opposite of how this country was founded. It's about self-reliance and building the capacity of your community and having the communities take care of themselves. It's the way it should be. Government should be a support for the community, not the mom and daddy for the community.
Right, absolutely. I want to switch gears here just a minute, because, I can only take so much politics.
Same here.
Tell the people just a little bit about yourself, because a lot of people don't know AJ, and before a couple of years ago, I didn't know
No, that's cool.
AJ, but some people do. A lot of my listeners and people who tune in to help me, they or watch me, they know some of the people who come on, and some of the people they have no idea. But for those who don't know you,
Yeah, no, that's great. So I'm a born and raised in Flat Rock. You know, just very blessed. Small town life. That's very rarely did I have any interaction at anybody else's house but family. It was all about cousins and aunts and uncles and grandparents. So small town boy. I was somewhere along the line. I grew a little bit larger than most people. It doesn't show sitting down here, but I'm a good 6'6" on most days, and some days I stand tall enough for 6'7", which afforded me some attention playing basketball. I was a decent basketball player. Played on really good teams, and so from that I was able to go to college and get a little bit of that paid for, but quickly realized that I wasn't going to make a living doing that, and so I come from a family of educators. I should have said that first. And I knew one thing going to college was that I was not going to be a school teacher, because I don't know if any school teachers are out there, but my mom, bless her, we would come to Scottsboro, and we'd go to Red Food, and then we'd go to Kmart, and that would be on the third.
I hadn't heard that name in a long time. You're dating us, brother. You're dating us.
But we went to Red Food and Kmart, and boy, you had that list together, because whatever you needed, that's what you got, and that would be on. But like I said, about the third or fourth of the month, because you had to let the check. You got an actual paper copy of the check.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had to go deposit it, and then you could go write a check to somebody. And so I'd grown up that way. I knew that, about the 15th, 16th day of the month, things got lean, and by the 24th, 25th, I mean, it was saltine crackers, and hopefully there was still some peanut butter.
Yeah.
Because you knew the next round of money wasn't coming in for a few more days. Wash, rinse, repeat. Wash, rinse, repeat. And in fact, I was kind of mixed on whether I wanted to play basketball in college, because, I mean, playing high school sports and playing college sports are two different things. High school is a wonderful experience. Everybody in the community knows you. They all come out and support. College sports is hard. It is a full-time job. And I'd known enough people to know that, hey, it's a good opportunity, but it's work.
Right.
Work. And I had the good heart with my mom. I was like, well, I got this little book grant at this school, and maybe a couple classes paid here, or I can go play ball here and it be paid for. And I said, so how much money's in the college account? And she went, zero. And and that was that's the reality for a lot of people. And so for me, it was, okay, this is my chance to alleviate some pressure on her, and maybe provide for myself. And so I said all that to say teachers don't make a whole lot of money. And so, and not that you should choose a career based on money, but, from a perspective of not having a whole lot, you go, well, I need to make sure I've got a decent amount of money, or at least enough money to provide. So I didn't want to go to school to be a teacher. And so, of course, the beauty of that story is everything led, whether I wanted it to or not, which, we're best when we don't control.
Right. That's right.
And everything fell in place for me to become a teacher. And I loved every second of it. And so I went to North Carolina and played ball for a couple of years, returned home to the University of Alabama, finished up there with a master's degree in teaching, and was able to come back home. I came to Scottsboro and did that for a couple of years, and then went to North Jackson, taught there for a year, and then become the assistant principal. And that was an absolute wonderful, wonderful thing. I love the city of Stevenson. I love the city of Bridgeport. I love Hollywood, and I love my time at Scottsboro. And being a mountain boy, you know, a lot of misconceptions were quickly done away with because you realize folks are folks, country folks, city folks, city folks. Everybody's the same. We all fight the same struggles. It's just got a little different look to it. And so made a lot of good, powerful friendships. In fact, goodness, I'll try not to cry on this one, but one of my buddies up there, Russell Walker, passed away this week, and you know, and you know, just meeting good people like that is what North Jackson afforded me. You know, Russell was just a great guy. He's a great guy. Raised his family the right way, did the right things, and so went to North Jackson. Just outstanding opportunity. I grew a lot, made a lot of mistakes, but you know, and that's where you grow.
Right.
But you know, met some outstanding people. A lot of the people that have commented, Brooke's one of them. You know, they're North Jackson folks, and you know, and that was a wonderful time in my life. Then I took a principal job at Bridgeport, did that for a number of years, and just absolutely loved that little town. It's you know, it's so wonderful, you know, to be there long enough to where you watch kids grow, you see parents become better parents, you know, parents become grandparents. Now I've got, of course, students that have got children of their own and growing and flourishing, and some of them are even up in their 40s, which makes me feel terribly old. But it just having those opportunities, and then from there, I was fortunate enough to be promoted to the central office and do some work for Jackson County Schools, where I served director of curriculum instruction, and tried to make a positive impact. Because for me, I just take that same dynamic of find a problem, fix a problem. Find a problem, fix a problem. Find a problem, fix a problem. I mean, that's what I do on the commission. That's what I've done in anything. If I was in the classroom, that's what we did. If I was coaching the team, that's what we did. And so did that from the district perspective. And so that gave me a very, very interesting countywide view. Because it's one thing to go to a ball game at a place, and it's another thing to see the struggles that they have, or the challenges that they have, or the wonderful things they got going on there. And so having that countywide perspective, that really set me up to understand, okay, you know, we've got to make sure that we're providing some equity in what we do, giving everybody, regardless of zip code, an opportunity to achieve success. And so that was wonderful. Did that for 4 years. And then during my time at the if I'm talking too much.
You go. They always tell me I talk too much, and I'm enjoying this.
So for me, you know, it's one of those divine things. And so one of the darkest days I had at the district office was I got a call from Channel 48. I'll never forget it. And they wanted a statement from me on North Jackson being on the failing schools list. And that's the first I heard about it. And it infuriated me because I thought, wait a minute. I know the people at North Jackson. They're not failures in any stretch of the imagination. It's certainly not a terrible school. I mean, I'd worked there for a number of years and been away for a couple, but it didn't just fall apart. I mean, it wasn't a terrible place. And so it angered me, to say the least. And so with that, you know, I had to immerse myself into what's it like to be called something that you're not, and how do you overcome it? And so worked with well, of course, devised a mental plan myself and worked with the school, and they quickly changed a few things that maybe they could do better on, and then it was, oh my goodness, well, if we do this and we do this and we do this, And then all of a sudden I started having fun. I was like, well, if we're going to call names, let's do something fun. And so I signed North Jackson up to be an A-plus college ready school. Because I thought, if we're going to put a label on school, let's be A-plus college ready. And they embraced it. They're like, oh, okay, well, we can do this and change the complexion. And so the performance at North Jackson all of a sudden become the best academic school in the county.
Wow.
Because of a change in mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So what was a terrible day become a turning point because it was insulting to me. It was insulting to all the people there. But they said, okay, well, let's dust ourselves off and let's go forward instead of wallow in the mud. So that occurrence in helping them help themselves led me to a connection with the person that was over school improvement for the state. And she slyly called one day and she said, do you know anybody in your area that might be interested in doing what I do? Tell me about it. I mean, I knew what she did, and she kept rolling on, and I stopped her about halfway through, and I said, tell me why I don't want to do this job. And she started laughing. She said, would you be interested in the job? I said, well, why didn't you ask that question first? It was a cool way of doing it, though. And so from that, I left Jackson County, which I thought I'd never do. I mean, if you would have set me at any point in time and said, where are you going to be in the future, I would have said, well, I'm going to have this for dinner. I mean, that's about as far in the future as I ever think. And so from that led me to working for the State Department. And I originally worked regionally, and then I was placed over the entire state, which, again, small town boy, you don't ever think kids from Flat Rock are going to be meeting with the governor and the state school board superintendent, and being called into the legislature to testify, and having this, that, and the other person treat you like you're something different because of some title or whatever. But it was absolutely a fun opportunity because I got to see, how do I best say this? Let's just say we're very fortunate where we live. When you get to the Black Belt of Alabama, and they're lucky to have textbooks, they're lucky to have any of the creature cultures that we're just like, nah, I don't even want that. I mean, what the materials that we throw away up here would be treasured items there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they are so poor and so far behind. And working with those schools where their hearts are just as big as they can be, and they're just absolute sponges, but often there's not teachers there because they can't afford to pay, and anybody that's got an education runs away. And so just trying to help them overcome that has been what I've been doing.
Yeah.
And then just this last month I was allowed to I was offered an opportunity to come closer to home, which I've always lived here, but to be working and going. And so I got hired as the deputy superintendent of Huntsville City Schools, which is kind of the microcosm of the state, because there's some very affluent areas and there's some very poor areas in Huntsville, and trying to make sure that all those kids are served and there's equitable opportunity, and it's just a wonderful position. I mean. And so that's professional.
Yeah, and Huntsville's growing. So, I mean, it's the biggest city in the state now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can imagine that it has everything. I know it's funny. We'll talk about North Jackson for a minute if it's okay.
Absolutely.
I grew up in Scottsboro. I lived in Mud Creek most of my life, so I've always been a kind of a Mud Creek guy. The majority of, half the guys in my wedding party, my groomsmen, were North Jackson guys, football players. But, as in my mind, I always thought about football. The rivalry was there. I outside of football, I loved Stevenson, Bridgeport people. I mean, most of the people that I knew lived this side of the creek, But he just was what it was growing up a Scottsboro guy. Like you said, a lot of misconceptions about how things are done and the way things really are. So you fast forward a few years, I'm here at the church, and one day a guy walks up. He introduces himself to me as Joe Hollis, and shook my hand, looked me in the eyes. They were here and I had just gotten the PA job at Scottsboro. Been trying to get that 25 years. Wanted to be the PA guy. But I settled for working with Greg Bell, which is not a second choice. I mean, that was a ton of fun, and I learned so much from Greg. But we're here, and Joe comes, and he's here 4, 5, 6 weeks, something like that. Football season rolls around. One morning, I'm at work. Stacy's talking about going to Rotary. I said, "Yeah, we got North Jackson's coach coming today. He's, Joe Hollis." I said, "Bet you ain't tall." He said, "Yeah, that's him." I said, "You said he's the head coach where?" And he told me again. So I messaged coach, and I said, "Joe, do you coach football?" He's like, "Oh yeah." In talks with him, he laughed about it. We go on now. Anyway, that season, as the season progressed, he started calling me, coming up on Sunday mornings. He said, "Preach, I need you to consider coming and helping me with the team." And I said, "Man, I just got this job." He's like, "If you're passionate about it, stay after it." And just really encouraging. He said, "But I'd still like for you to come speak to the team." So that first year, 2021, I think the last 7 games of the season, 6 games, the regular season and a playoff game, I would go speak to the team and drive all the way up there, do that, and then I'd drive all the way back to Scottsboro, do PA. If Scottsboro was away, I would hang out with them, just whatever. And then last year, I gave up PA for football and did the chaplain. But while Joe was asking me about it, I'll never forget it. I said, "Coach, I don't think you understand what you're asking me to do, being a chaplain." And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, I'm really, I don't, it'd be kind of hypocritical of me to be up there, being as how ugly I've been about them in the past. And I mean, the rivalry ran deep in my blood." He said, "I can't be that bad, Preach." And I said, "Well, just in the interest of honesty here, I'm going to just tell you, I'm the guy that said once upon a time that the greatest sight these eyes would ever see would be the orange glow of R.D. Hicks burning to the ground." And he laughed. He said, "Oh, that's tough." I said, "Well, that's me. That's just how I felt about it." And but I started going up there and speaking, and I kind of got to know some of the kids. Mm-hmm. So, 7 weeks into that, I couldn't wait for the next year to roll around. I was ready to go then. I wanted to be a chaplain, and I've enjoyed that about as much as anything I've ever done. Those kids will, they're hard shells to crack. But it's like you said, some of them are coming from situations that they do not, football is the only thing they have that brings them some normalcy, some just the opportunity to go out there and just get out some frustration and have a camaraderie, have a little bit of community, do some things different than just stress and worry. And man, it really opened my eyes to some of the plights, even of our county, as blessed as we are. Right here in this area where we're at, it's things are not great. They're better than they are a lot of places,
right,
but they're just not great. And it could really, having my eyes open to the idea that there's something bigger in life, more important than me. It became more than just this ministry here that we do. That became part of who I was. Right. And then having Scottsboro open the basketball back up and letting me still go down there and do basketball, because I enjoy PA. So I enjoy doing that so much. One of the things that I always tell people about the radio business that I learned to love was, Greg said, he always used to tell me it's not about us, it's about these kids. Somebody somewhere might be in a hospital taking their last breath, and this is the last game they ever get to hear, and they're going to hear us call out their child or their grandchild or their nephew or their niece or whatever. We're going to call their names out, and they're going to smile, and it might be one of the last things that brings them some joy before they leave this earth. It's always about somebody else. Man, that hit me so deep. That started becoming part of who I was every day, who I wanted to be, what I wanted to do with my life was to. So PA offered me the opportunity to sit around. That's what I tell people. There's something very refreshing about just sitting around giving other people credit. Just talking about, they call out a shot, they make a shot, you call their name. Mm-hmm. Well, this year at North Jackson, the PA guy steps down just a week or so ago. So they call me a few days before the Jamboree game and say, we're going to need you to wear another hat for us at home this year. So I do the chaplain stuff until about 5:45, and then I go to the booth and do PA for the game, and then I go back down to the locker room and be a chaplain again for about 20 minutes.
So let me ask you a question. How much fun is it, the reverberation of saying something and then hearing it?
It was a little difficult the first time because I did it for the first time at Trammell Stadium, and when I said something and then it echoed, I had to learn to block out the echo, and I had to just hone in. A lot of times what I would do is I'd just wear headphones where I couldn't hear the echo to start with. I'd just put plugs in, and I would just talk, and after a while I got where I don't hear it anymore. I've learned to focus in on just what I'm saying and what's going. It's almost like I can see the words going into to the capsule.
I'm not that smart, so the very rare times when I was at North Jackson and would have to make an announcement I thought they're gonna think I'm up here drinking or something because it just catches you and it just sounds terrible.
If you don't have, I actually told the guy who followed me to Trammell, he asked me if I had any advice, and I told him come up practice, get used to hearing yourself, and so that it doesn't bother you. The delays don't bother you. Go over how just say just general things. Number 20 with the ball carrier on the play.
So how much you get paid for this?
I don't get paid anything.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So and that's the beauty of why things work is there's some positions where you do get paid, but the real beauty of watching let's just take a Friday night football game.
Mm-hmm.
The number of people that are volunteering their time and living and breathing it so that someone else can be highlighted is the embodiment of what we should be and what we should do. And I'm so thankful for people like you that have said, I'll surrender 10 nights to call this game, or the band parent that's like, yes, I will make sure that this platform gets from the back of that truck to the field, and from the field out to the 50-yard line and back to the sideline and back to that truck, because without that help, the schools can't do it.
That's right.
It's going to look terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad to be somewhere where a school is not able to provide the extra things because they don't have volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
And we assume, North Jackson's big-time football or Scottsboro's big-time football, and they pay these people a lot of money to do the PA or to run the chains or to – no, there's people that have given of their time, and it takes a lot. And whatever we want to do, I mean, just like Sunday morning service, I'm sure there's not many paid employees that are providing the services that are needed.
Yeah, there's actually nobody here gets paid, including me. So it's the power company does.
Yeah, so
they make money, but other than that, when we started this, this just bounced off of what all of those years working with Greg, and I really found out, he did it it's his livelihood, you know. So he has to make money. There's operating costs and things like that to be able to do what he does. But he did so many things with, you know, I'll just be honest with people who don't know anything about the radio business. He asked me to say this. He goes in the hole to do softball, baseball. He by the time you add in all his costs, fuel costs, eats, you know, the fees that he has to sometimes pay to broadcast these, he doesn't. The advertising is good. That keeps his station going. But as far as himself, that's basically voluntary.
Right.
And he just do it anyway, over and over and over again. And I learned the farther I went along that anything that I was willing to do for free, I would enjoy it so much more than if it became something. And, you know, that's a principle that the Bible, you know, Jesus talked about the difference between shepherds and hirelings.
Right.
You know, if you really desire to lead, you'll do it for free. If you really desire to do something, they won't have to pay you to show up. If you're passionate about it and it's something that you enjoy, nobody will have to beg you to come. Right. and give everything you got. That's one of the things I just got done telling Mr. Harding and Coach this the other day. We were talking about doing I'm working on a pregame, you know, script and stuff. I said, you know, guys, I know it doesn't mean a lot to y'all. I'm kind of aggravating you, asking you questions about, you know, are you going to do this? You're going to do this, but I'm trying to figure out what's going where. I'm not going to halfway do it. I'm going to give this. It may be terrible. You may not like it. You may want to fire me. It doesn't matter to me, but I'm going to give it 100%, no matter what. You know, it's going to, at least in my opinion, I'm going to have laid it all on the line.
Right.
And, you know, that bounced over to my volunteering to do PA. You know, I do basketball. They used to have to pay somebody to do basketball at Scottsboro. When they asked me about taking it, how much you going to charge? Man, listen, I don't need money to do that. Matter of fact, I invest money in it. I buy new equipment and I upgrade my stuff, and because I like use my own stuff there a lot of times, so I don't. It's just not about that. It's not about that here. When this started, it was one of the things I was big about. You know, I don't want a salary. I really. It took away the joy. You know.
Well, yeah, because anything, true joy in life is doing what you love to do,
mm-hmm.
and especially if it can be in service of other people.
Yes.
And so, and that's a principle that I've tried to live with of wherever I'm at, whether it be financially, emotionally, spiritually, there's somebody lower. There's
mm-hmm.
somebody that needs my help. There's somebody that needs my support. And by the time that I've helped them, I've often forgotten about whatever woes
right.
me that I was dealing with. And, you know, and it's such a beautiful example that you're living, because it truly is about helping people up or helping people out, as opposed to, hey, look at me, look what I can do, look
right.
what I can achieve. Well, that's worthless, because when you reach the top of the mountaintop, you're going to be alone up there.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
You're going to look down at the people and go, gosh, I had a lot more fun when I was down there, so why am I not down there
mm-hmm.
helping people and doing and giving? And if you'll notice, people that accumulate a lot of wealth, they end up trying to give it away because it brings them no joy.
Right.
So it shouldn't be about the pursuit of money. It should be about the pursuit of
joy
mm-hmm. through helping.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and if you don't achieve joy by helping people,
right.
I don't know what we can do for you, but it is a wonderful way. And I don't have to be the preacher at a church or a county commissioner or you know, a school leader or whatever to make a difference. I can volunteer
Absolutely.
and I can help any walk of life. And so
a few years ago, a guy gave me a little slip of paper. He was driving me to him to a preaching appointment, and we were on our way back, and he slides me a little piece of paper, and it says, you know, if you really want to know what joy is, you know, here it is. I took it. It didn't mean a lot to me then, but the older I got, and as life experiences, you know, good things and bad things, and mountaintops and tragedies and hills and valleys and, times of weeping and times of worshiping. Jesus first, J. Others next, O. Yourself last, Y. Mm-hmm. When Jesus was talking about the two most important things, he said, on these two things hang all the law and the prophets, is one, love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. The second is like unto it. It's not it. Loving your neighbor is, as yourself is right up there, but it is number two. Love God first. Love your neighbor as yourself. And if you can put yourself behind, a few years ago, me and my wife and I were, we were raising kids and similar, just marital strife and struggles. And we sat down one day with the scriptures open, and I said, listen, I think if you and I would just figure out a way to, we just drew a triangle, and I said, you know what, you're here and I'm here and God's here. If we can just figure out a way to both of us point towards one goal, and you focus on honoring Him and I'll focus on honoring Him. And the closer we got to Him, the closer we started getting to each other. We started doing things to help each other. I started to see less and less and less of things that I thought that was wrong with her. Mm-hmm. I stopped seeing the bad because, I was focusing more on the end goal. I have found the same thing applies in any job, any facet of life, whatever you're doing, whether it's government or education or just business world. If you're going to yoke up with somebody and you're going to partner and endeavor to do anything, you got to have got to find some common ground immediately. I think that's the great failure of our society now is everybody's selfish.
Oh yeah.
All they think about is how it affects me. And so usually the last people that are even considered are the people that are going to be affected the most.
Right.
I really wish that it weren't that way, but it really seems like it is.
So one of my favorite stories of the Bible is the disciples are out at sea, and it's turbulent, crazy winds, wave, storm. And Jesus was away from them because he needed to restore. Mm-hmm. And so he'd sent them. And so in the storm, he's coming to them. And so when they see him out there, the command was, well, if you want to come to me, you can. So Peter got out of the boat. And so winds, waves, storm. Oh, and Peter's walking on water. We talk about Jesus walking on water. Mm-hmm. Peter walked on water. And how did he walk on water? Because he was focused on Jesus. Mm-hmm. It's exactly what you're talking about. We can overcome anything if we focus on Jesus.
Right.
When he lost his focus, he went
right.
under. And he had to be saved.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just a wonderful illustration of let's work toward this goal and let's get to where we need to be. And our society has lost its focus. And let's just get real for a second. Where you and I lived in a world where we respected our parents. We honored elders. Mm-hmm. We did things for widows and orphans. We, if you had a family down the road that had less than you, even if it was just a little bit less than you gave what you had to them. You didn't ask. There wasn't a government program for it. There wasn't some mandate. There wasn't, and you did. And also you helped to hold people accountable. If somebody wasn't doing, you went and had a conversation, face-to-face conversation, mm-hmm. not blasting people on the book.
Yeah.
we went and had a face-to-face conversation about things. There wasn't bullying because you could get your eye dotted if you said the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. And we treated each other with respect, but it was because we respected something greater than us. Right. We had our eyes where it should be. And as the world has told us not to respect, not to be, we've done everything we can to diminish the role of church and to belittle church membership. A mockery of Christianity, defamation of Christian symbols and words, and using the Lord's name in vain, and all these things have just become acceptable, that we've lost our focus. And so if we, and I'm using we as Christians, if we could return to that word, mm-hmm. be Christ-like, as opposed to members of the country club.
Hey.
You following along?
I hear you, brother. Go ahead.
If we could be Christians, Christ-like, and do that in a way and raise ourselves that way first, mm-hmm. because we cannot get others to follow us until we raise ourselves that way. And that's really the missing element, mm-hmm. Because I think people are inherently good. I don't see us as a bad creation. I mean, I know we're conceived in sin, and all men sin and fall short of the glory of God. But I don't think we were created that way. I think we were created to be good, and man has been the perversion. Man has caused this.
I think it was Jeremiah that said that the heart of man is deceitful and wicked above all else, and who can know it? And I tell people this all the time. You got to be careful when you use those words, because you'll imply something that's not actually there. The heart, just like in the Old Testament, was the bowels were considered, the way that God deals with us. But really and truly, what those were was a description of the seat of the emotions. Right. In the Old Testament, it was primarily the bowels were used, and that's still where we use the term, my gut's telling me to do this, my gut's telling me to do that. But we think we love with our heart because we consider the heart to be the seat of the emotion. Really, the heart's just a muscle. It's not, right. But it's that place where we feel things on a supernatural level. That's where we struggle. Paul said, the things that I want to do, that's the things that I don't do. And the things I don't want to do, those are the things that I find myself doing. Right. So that there's always this war going on inside of me. When I would do good, evil is always present with me. Mm-hmm. Oh, wretched man that I am. And I tell the church a lot of times here, and I say it a lot of other places too, coming to grips with who I'm capable of being keeps me from being that guy.
Right.
Understanding that if you push me to a certain place, I know in my spirit, I know I'm capable of being a real scumbag. I can be, if not for the grace of God, I could be real petty, mm-hmm. But knowing that about myself and not wanting to be that guy, but knowing that but for the grace of God, I would be that guy.
Right.
It keeps me. I also have that same desire, like you said. There's a desire in me to do good. 50% of me wants to do the other.
Right.
So figuring out a way to encourage people to choose good has been difficult part for me.
Oh, well, and because we're both teachers, whether we want to put that label on or not, but and for me, I think there's a little bit of understanding how we can help people, and if you've ever flown on a plane, one of the first things they teach you is when that oxygen mask drops down, mm-hmm. it's not go check the vitals of the pilot and to check this woman that looks like she might be in labor, or these little kids. It's mm-hmm. put the mask on yourself so that you've got oxygen. And so we got to make sure that we are restoring ourselves. And back to my story that I shared from the Bible, Jesus had gone to restore himself because he had, now correct me if I'm wrong here, I think he had fed the 5,000.
Yeah, he'd done that. He'd done all those miracles. And they had been days and actually several days without without much rest because of the crowds.
That's right. So he, his desire was to get closer to God, to restore himself, because that's the example for us. I mean, we got to make sure that we are doing what we can through being in the Word, through being mindful about prayer, fighting the evil. I mean, the old cartoon of you got a devil over here and an angel over here, and that's real. I mean, not that there's actually there, but our mind goes through that, and so the more time you're going to spend in the Word, the more time you're going to spend in prayer, the more time you fight against, then you're weakening that evil part of you.
Yeah.
If we feed that part, it's going to consume us. And and that's where my mistakes have always been, when I feed that evil part.
Yeah, and that's my grandmother used to tell me that all the time. The biggest dog in your life is going to be the one you feed the most.
Right.
If you let that one out eat the other one, it's going to end up being the biggest and the strongest and the hardest to deal with. And that's what I have found to be, true for every aspect of my life. If I'm not careful, something's going to get out of hand.
Oh, yeah.
And then there I'll be, left to deal with it.
Well, and you as a parent, same thing here, and unfortunately, I had good parents, and I'm sure you did too, where they sacrificed to help us, and we try to do that as parents, but we're teaching in society that you give into your own pleasures, So I had a rough day at work, so I'm going to take X, Y, and Z to zone me out or pump me up or make me oblivious to what's going on. Not, okay, I had a rough day at work, let me restore myself by being thoughtful in the Word and prayer, and then give my children what they need, which is going to build me up because I'm going to see them respond. Yep. And, we just have to lose those inclinations or fight to suppress those inclinations. And, of course, back to let's be Christians. Once we know the way, we're supposed to follow the way.
Yeah.
It's not a and I love seeing your pictures of the baptisms in the river. It's very, very it's probably out of necessity, but it's also a beautiful gesture.
We talked about doing some things different, but everybody kind of likes it, so we just keep going with it.
It's the way it should be.
Yeah.
And so, but it's a symbolic gesture because, when Jesus was baptized, he still had to go to the wilderness and confront the devil.
Immediately.
Okay.
Immediately after that.
Because we know what happens when you profess faith. Then everything's coming out against you. One thing that's, and we go back early in Jesus' career when he goes to Nazareth and speaks at the tabernacle. He was dismissed because they saw him for what he was. Now, of course, I'm going to assume that Jesus was a perfect child and did everything he was supposed to. I mean, that's the way he lived his adult life. But they were viewing him the way he was instead of the way he is. And so the same thing happens to every Christian. I mean, the people that you were drinking with on Saturday night, they don't know that you got saved Sunday morning. And so they're just going to assume that that's who you are. They don't understand the change.
Yep.
And, of course, you got to make sure that you're keeping yourself as straight and narrow as possible, which is hard. It's not an easy road.
Yeah, I think, and I tell this to a lot of different people. People ask lots of questions, and of course, being a pastor, sometimes I get asked questions that I can't repeat. And but one of the things that I used to get early on was, how do you? And it was and it kind of came out of about the whole idea with me and my wife figuring out, how we were gonna do things. When we started working towards a common goal, what we figured out was, if I'm pointing at A and she's pointing at A, and we're both working towards A, we're not seeing the negatives about each other anymore because we don't have time. We're focusing on something positive. Well, the closer, we got to him, if we truly focus on being like him as best we could, then we started to appreciate each other. We started to love each other more, take care of each other more, look out for each other. We became a team, really just a partnership. And then the greatest thing in the whole world happened. And that's why I say it can be applied to everything. Once we started for here, we found out that she didn't have to worry about me beating on her or mistreating her or abusing her. And I didn't have to worry about that either. But neither did our children.
Right.
Our children were, as a byproduct of us loving God and loving each other, putting each other ahead of ourselves, they never had to worry about a thing.
Right.
And I tell people sometimes now, it's important for parents, it's important for any leader. You better find somebody who's chasing the Lord. You need to find somebody who's seeking the face of God, the heart of God, the will of God for their life, because if they are, that person is going to treat you better than they treat themselves. And when everybody starts worrying about the person that they're co-laboring with or the person that they meet on the street, if they're just focusing on being sold out for Jesus, then nobody else has to worry about, how they're going to be treated.
Yeah.
You run up on a true relationship, somebody who has a true relationship with Christ, you're not going to have to worry about them mistreating you, hurting you. You don't have to worry about them trying to run off with your kids or, doing something to your spouse or pulling a knife on you. Somebody who's got a right relationship with the Lord, true relationship with Christ, they're not going to do those things.
Right.
Imagine a world where we could we could leave the doors open at night again. Our kids could ride their bicycles down the streets unattended or unwatched, and everybody looks out for everybody. And Dr. Craig Edwards, a great friend of mine in North Carolina, he always used to say this. He said, we live in a day now where people don't build front porches; they build privacy fences in the backyard. Their entertainment areas are in the backyard with big fences where you can't see in and they don't have to see out. They don't have a front porch. They got steps that lead to the door. The door's locked. The light's off. Sometimes the doorbell's taken away.
Right.
They just don't want you,
Well, yeah, I mean, one of the things that I used to make fun of with my grandfather, and he carried the mail for 45 years, knew everybody, but he waved, and it was a single finger, but he waved at everybody he met going up down the road, and he talked to everybody he encountered, even if it was just a hello. Try doing that, even in the church house, of where you're talking to everybody, and I'm not trying to throw shade on your building because I've not been there during service, but we've got to get back to that, because if I can look you in the eye, then I am going to honor you and respect you, and at least be sympathetic or acknowledging. And also, if I train myself to look you in the eye, I'm going to know I don't think he's feeling good,
right,
or I see concern, or I see worry in him, and so I can rely on my bowels that will say, "Hey, check on James because I don't think he's doing good."
Yeah.
Or if I know you well enough, it may be, hey, let me take you and your wife to lunch today, not knowing that y'all just had a discussion on where we're going to eat today. But if I know who you are through being able to make that eye contact, and so we've gotten so far from that because it is putting those walls up and protecting ourselves and keeping the boogie out. Well, those neighborhoods still exist where people want to be neighbors.
Yep.
Truly watch out for each other, have each other's back. I had a great professional development one time with with body language, and the lady was talking about, how to use your hands and how to position yourself and so on and so forth, so that you are welcoming and non-threatening and all of these things. And she was using the example of couples, and she said, I know what kind of relationship somebody has by how they sit. And so she gave us three choices, which was that we're kind of interlocked, holding, or we're sitting beside each other, or that we've got our backs turned. And so, she asked the question, which is the most loving couple? And of course, nearly everybody said, oh, this couple that's interlocked. And she's like, no, they've just met each other, because that's very, very surface level where they've got to be touching each other publicly so that they're showing the rest of the world, I love this person so much. So the people that are side by side are not necessarily confrontational, but they're not in a good space. But if you find a couple that goes back to back, then they're so comfortable. And it's just like what you were talking about. She doesn't have to worry about that I'm going to hurt her, say something wrong, attack her, not provide, not protect. Same thing with you. You're not worried about, is she fixing to undercut me or do something, and that's what you look for. You find a couple that can be comfortable back to back, and you've got something special. And so we've got to be comfortable enough with each other that we can look each other in the eye, and also be in each other's company and not feel like we have to put up these walls or pretend or shield ourselves, because, again, we need to be who we are.
Absolutely, man. That's great. That's great right there. So man, you believe this? We've already been going an hour and 25 minutes, so I try to keep this about an hour and a half if I can. But before we go off the air, I would like to say, for people who would like to know more about how things work, how does one go about learning that stuff? Not everybody has, like a personal teacher like I have that I learned the hard way with little, but how would somebody who desires to know how things go, how they go about learning?
Well, are you talking about county government or what?
Well, really, we could talk about, the county government, but we have other things, and there's a simple way, I think, but everybody has a different way of doing it.
All right, so here's my advice for anything. You find somebody that does it well and go sit at their feet. My aspiration is always to be the dumbest person in the room. If I'm the dumbest person in the room, I'm in the right room. I don't want to be the expert in the room because I'm not learning anything there. Now, occasionally I have to be the smartest person in the room because of the leadership role or something where I'm having to instruct and do. But for anybody, anything, whatever you want to learn, go sit at the feet of people who have done it. Mm-hmm. And if you do that, that's what you'll become. Right. If you make yourself, you hire people that are yes men, that won't make you better, that won't strive to push you and I'm not talking about people that are going to undercut you. I'm just talking about folks that have high energy. I was lucky enough this past week to hire an individual that if I run 50 miles an hour, he's running 65, because he is going to push me in every way possible. That doesn't scare me in one bit, because I need to go faster. I need to be better. And so for anything you want to learn, find somebody that's been there, done that, and is willing to help you. And anybody that's not willing to help you, that's not somebody you need to be around anyway. Right. And so that's my advice. If you want to know more about how the commission works, just come watch us. Come watch what we do. It's very rare that somebody comes to a commission meeting and doesn't walk away going, oh my goodness, y'all have to make a lot of decisions about a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. And so just by coming to a meeting, they gain an appreciation of, oh, this ain't quite as easy as I thought it was, because then you have to get outside yourself and see the things. And I'm not saying that it's a tough task, but because it's a task that I willingly took on. But it's a lot more than you think it is. And that's with anything. Mm-hmm. I mean, I used to, Chris, like like most kids on South Mountain, I grew up going to church on Sunday morning, Sunday evening, Wednesday night, and if there was ever activity on Saturday, we went. And so, of course, you watch all these different preachers, and of course, there's different styles and different cadences and things, and you're like, boy, I could do that, until you get up behind that pulpit and you realize, no, I can't do this, because you don't realize all the hours of preparation that went into it, and the study that had to be there, and designing, and you know, and you might have some notes, but you don't have it scripted out, because nobody's going to want to listen to you read. You've got to be proficient at it. You got to know, and you got to trust what you're doing. And so, it's not an easy thing that you do on Sundays. And so that's with anything. So that would be my long-winded answer to your question.
Hey, you just a few quick hitters about yourself. You attend church at the Well.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Right. How long have you been?
I've been at I was at Centerpoint before the Well, and when COVID hit and we went, you know, we're spaced out, different. Well, most people went to 2 services because they had to spread out, those type things. Well, I had met Pastor DeVries through the campaign. I was campaigning for commission at the time, and just hit it off. I mean, just kind of like our conversation. I mean, just really hit it off. Super nice guy. He's a big believer in supporting the community. You know, what role can the church play? How can they help? I never have a conversation that lasts more than a few seconds where it's like, well, what can I do to help? What can the church do to help? How can we make a difference? So because of the split in the time, I was able to go to church at Centerpoint and go to church at the Well. And that was actually beautiful. I can't tell you how spiritually uplifting it was to hear David Moorman speak, who's one of the finest teachers of the Word that I've ever been at, and then go to the Well and get the double dip of worship, double dip of a sermon, plus the camaraderie of both places. Well, when they went back, an odd thing had happened. And I have to. This goes deeper to Centerpoint, but my revelation happened at the Well. And do we have time? We're not going to get cut off.
Not
okay, all right. So we're not going to do a commercial break.
Oh, no.
And so for me, and I'll never forget the seat I was sitting in, and the peace that came over me at the time. From Sunday afternoon until Sunday morning, I can't tell you how many times I thought that week, I get to come back at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning. I get to come back. I get to come back. I can't wait to get back. Because growing up in the church and growing up in a family where you didn't have the option of whether you went to church or not. I mean, you were in the hospital sick. Because if you were not in the hospital, then we were going to get prayed for at the church. And so I'd never had that. I can't wait to get back in the building. It was just, oh, yeah. Sunday morning comes after Saturday. This is what you do on Sunday. Okay, you know, get you Sunday clothes on, go to church. No, it was, I can't wait to get back in the building. And like I said, just a complete peace, and just tears started flowing, just sitting in that seat going, I'm at home. It feels so good to be at home, because for the first time in my life, and I was pretty advanced age at that point, I went, I'm not here because I have to be here. I'm not here because somebody is expecting me to be here. I'm not here to be seen being here. I'm here to be with God. And I can be with God anywhere. But the reason that church doesn't work online the same way it works in the pews is you need that fellowship.
Yeah.
And so having that connection of brothers that I didn't know, I hadn't grown up with them, They don't know me from Adam's house cat. And in fact, the first time that Greg had me speak on stage was the first time any of them realized that I was anything other than the guy who sits in that area right there and serves sometime. And I loved that. It was wonderful. But that's where I go. I go to the well. The well is a wonderful church. But Jackson County is blessed with lots of wonderful churches, just like your church here, that serves the needs of the community and does. You do tremendous outreach work. It's wonderful the multiplying effect that your church has. How you're taking this small group of people and just shining a light in an area and creating a safe harbor and bringing people in and yeah, we'd love to dip somebody in the water one time and then walk and be a soldier forever. But we know from casting the seeds out that some are going to spring up, some are going to be deep rooted, and some the birds will just immediately carry away. And so I applaud you for your work.
Well, I appreciate that, and with the. I found that in our county and city, there's so many different kinds. There's so many different denominations, and I tell people a lot of times, I had when I started this, you hear all the naysaying and the negative stuff. There's 140 churches here. Why another one? Well, there was just a different group. Different needs needed to be met. Different people needed to be ministered to, and I kind of feel like when we started, we really tapped into a forgotten genre of people in this area. They were just forgotten. They were kind of like you were talking about. They had lost their zeal to be around, to be in the church. It had become to them just more of just something they did instead of something that they were, instead of part of who they were. And I feel like maybe a lot of the things that we talked about, the Lord kind of placed in my heart to do, not pass offering plate and not take a salary and pump things in. One of my big famous sayings here from the very beginning was, we're trying to raise money we're trying to build a building, and we're not moving just a little bit of piece away, but, even though we're trying to raise money, and we're not going to be a group of people that piles up a bunch of money and lets little kids go hungry. So, we're doing that separately, and I told the church, if we can do this, but if we lose who we are, just to build a building, that building will never get off the ground.
Well, and that building will not save a single person.
You're exactly right.
I don't care what you could make it out of gold. It's not going to save a single person.
Exactly right.
And so that's keeping the main thing the main thing.
Yeah.
And that's the way to go.
And I've been questioned 100,000 times, been called a liar, been called a bunch of things, and I'm okay, with all that because I know the truth. But I even told shared it with the church, a week or so ago that, we could go borrow money, and we could go, but I don't even want to really get. Our desire is to be debt free when it's done. Even if we have to do it in a little chunk here and a little chunk there, because, if we get laden down, with more big old mortgage payment, then we can't buy school lunches. We can't provide, money for, supplies and testing and stuff for Hollywood. And, we can't, if I have a tornado or something, water gets bad and have to shut the water off for COVID, we bought truckloads of water and send them out. Those are things that you lose,
right.
So I just don't want to sacrifice who we are to be for a great big pretty building. I mean, the Lord will provide, in his time, and he'll use people to do it. You never know who's waiting out there to, just look for somebody, something to invest in. For the right time and place. But God's used this place in a different way. And I had the privilege. I've never met Pastor Greg, but I did meet through recycle days and events like that. And then when we came up here, Charlie and Maggie Smith.
Oh yeah,
a DJ.
Yep.
But Waylon. Those are guys that I got to know and talk to, and really became very fond of just, just outside conversation. And anytime I go down that way, I try to stop in and say hello, see them. And Brother Charlie and I talk probably more than anybody down there. But, to hear those guys talking and their visions and how we share that. We go to different places, but we share the same kind of motivation. I think that's why we hit it off so well. They have the same kind of heart that I have.
Right.
I think that separates some ministries from others, but every ministry has its own purpose.
Absolutely, and and again, if you keep your focus on Christ, what did he do while he was here?
Mm-hmm.
He didn't build buildings.
No.
And he didn't lay out a bunch of laws and say this is what this is the order of songs you have to play, and this is when you stand up and sit down. And I'm not against any of that, because, as you say, if it makes someone feel more comfortable, and that was another thing about the well, because there might be somebody in front of you, hands in the air, dancing around. The person next to them might be laying face down in prayer and reverence, and the one next to them is standing there with their hands in their pocket, but feeling the Spirit. It's all okay.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And it's wonderful that people feel comfortable enough to be who they are.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about anything inappropriate. We're talking about just being comfortable in the Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, and I'm not a rah-rah guy. I'm not a person that's going to shout and sing and those type of things. That's not me. But I'm not uncomfortable with that, because I know what they're doing, and I understand and appreciate that. So that's kind of a microcosm within a church of what all of the churches allow for,
right,
if their priority is to be Christ-like.
I'm reminded when the disciples were passing by, they told the Lord, they said, there's some over there baptizing in your name, but they weren't part of us, part of our group, so we forbid them. Jesus stopped, said, forbid them not, leave them alone, because if they're not against me, it means they're for me.
Right.
And I've shared that a whole bunch, in the last few years. Is, I can, if you want to and I want to, doesn't matter how different we are in our doctrinal views. If you want to and I want to, we can help each other. We can pray for each other. We can at least lift each other up.
Right.
Because you may keep somebody from spending eternity separated from God, right. And if you can do it, and doing it your way, and I can do it, doing it the way the Lord impressed me to do it, right. Then blessed be the name of the Lord, because either way, people are missing.
Right, and it goes back to something you alluded to earlier, which, you grew up in the black and gold, and then you went to the red and black.
Yeah.
And you're going to sit and eat with them, and you're going to fellowship with them,
mm-hmm.
and you're going to call them. Yeah, I am, because it's important for me to do that, and so maybe there's something learned, maybe there's a realization of you guys are closer to each other than you thought, and so much of Christianity is undermined because we spend a lot of time belittling and undermining each other, and of course not living the faith either, which really destroys the church, if you just want to be honest. But
it does. Well, AJ, I'm honestly,
we'll have to do this again, but,
yeah, man,
but not sharing it with however many people we got here.
Well, my battery died on my computer just a minute ago, so I'm good with how many was watching. But I tell you this has been a real joy. I have enjoyed.
Same here.
I have really enjoyed this. I'm going to do this again next year. When it gets to be basketball season, I'm going to miss a few Tuesdays here and there because of of my commitment to Scottsboro. But I plan on starting back next year once it gets out of basketball season, probably into the spring, and I'm going to do like a second season of this. And I'm trying to have most everybody, almost, at least I hope everybody that I had this year we'll come back and we can continue to do, more and more. And I want to have some other guests on, and maybe I can have multiple guests too. I've been working on doing that a few times just here and there, seeing how that goes. And it's a lot of fun when I can get, two people in here at the same time, especially two people that can kind of go back and forth about.
Well, you can tell old stories all the time, and I know tonight we stayed mostly in the serious realm, but I think it is important what you're doing, because it's again, reflecting on the good old days. I mean, it wasn't uncommon or uncomfortable to see men talking about their faith,
right?
And men talking about right and wrong in society, and we've gotten away from that big time. And so I'm appreciative of you not only professing your faith, but being strong about it, and so creating an avenue for additional things to happen in that way. And it's important. It's important what you're doing and how you're doing it, and and connecting with people in a different way. I mean, again, I think having scenarios like this is just modeling what we want the next generation to do. Be strong in your faith, learn from your mistakes, and let's go forward and serve. And if we model that, then we got a better chance of it happening. If we hide it, it's not going to happen.
And I feel the same way about you. I mean, it's every guest I've had on has they serve society in a different way, and that's what this whole thing, is about. Meeting at the creek is just, people can come together, and you can be from one walk of life, and I can be from another walk of life, and we don't even have to agree on our theology or our political, points of view. We don't have to like the same sports teams. It's just those things are irrelevant. But it's about, people having an opportunity to sit down and hear about somebody else's story. People, and I love bringing guys like you on, especially, and I appreciate the fact that you're so zealous about your faith, and I love that about you. Huntsville's lucky to have you.
Thank you.
Number one, and Jackson County's lucky to have you.
Thank you.
I
I
appreciate
love Jackson County.
I
love Jackson County, and I'll tell you a little bit selfish on Huntsville. I truly believe in the bigger scheme of life, which is there's some reason that this door's open up in Huntsville, and I personally believe it's to make connections that help ease this transition, because Huntsville's coming this way. As you've already alluded to, Huntsville's our largest city. They need Scottsboro to be strong. They need Jackson County to be strong, because there's suppliers that need to locate somewhere outside of Huntsville. There's homes that need to be built somewhere outside of Huntsville. There's strong schools that need to be somewhere outside of Huntsville, so that prosperity can be spread. And we're in a wonderful situation in Jackson County where we've got 52,000 people, but lots of space. And if we double population tomorrow, we're still got lots of space.
Yeah.
And so, the things that Jackson County needs to be getting ready for is what our infrastructure needs, and what can we do with the people that are coming. And so how can we provide services for them? How can we make sure that we're maintaining a quality of life and those type things? You want to do that in preparation as opposed to reaction.
Yeah, you never want to be reactionary. And I can attest just in solid waste, because we get the calls from the people who are moving in, and I'm sure Jackson County gets their calls too. But in the city, we're getting calls from people who are coming here from Oregon, Idaho, California, Washington State, the Dakotas, Iowa, all through the Midwest, coming down from Indiana and Wisconsin and Nebraska, Texas, New Mexico.
That are choosing to live here. They don't have to.
For whatever reason, I don't know why, but they're picking this place.
I can tell you why. Because this is one of God's perfect creations. I mean,
Yeah.
we live in an almost utopia, and my frustration is that not a lot of people understand that. We still have people, and don't get me wrong, I think it's good to go on vacation, but we have people that leave this area to go to the Smokies to vacation. Like, we're just as beautiful. I mean, our outdoor opportunities and recreation is just the same. Don't disrespect your area. This is the perfect place to be. It's the perfect place to live. It's the perfect place to work. It's the perfect place to play. It's the perfect place to pray. I mean, we have everything you're going to need here, and I'm not just talking about people that go on vacation. I mean, whatever it is that you want to do, you can do it right here. And to say, oh, well, you know, I got to live closer to stuff. Well, you draw a circle around wherever you are in Jackson County, and in less than 2 hours, you're going to be anywhere you want to be.
Yeah.
You can be in Nashville, you can be Atlanta, you can be in Birmingham, certainly you can be in Huntsville. And so, I mean, you're talking about millions of people and millions of opportunity, and you can live somewhere where you can see the stars. And you don't hear sirens all the time, and you certainly don't hear gunshots except when duck season opens up.
Yeah. And I think that is one thing that when I was a 16-year-old teenager working at Food World bagging groceries, and I used to carry, there'd be every once in a while somebody would, you know, pop in and they'd have an accent. I'd say, you know, I'd be carrying their groceries out for them. Like, where are you from? From California, or from Las Vegas, or upstate New York. Or, you know, why would you want to live here? Man, it's beautiful here.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Always beautiful here.
You guys don't know what you have. You know, I'm one of those people that go to the Smokies, do real quick getaways and stuff. I go mainly for just to change the scenery. You know, when I need a break from people.
And I understand that.
You know,
and I didn't mean to insult, but
no, you did. I did take it.
But it's the, I don't, and I said that. We go to the Smokies and we talk about how beautiful it is, but it looks just like here.
Yeah.
And so for me, and my first 2 years of college, I went to the Smokies. I went to the Blue Ridge Mountains. And they are close to Asheville, North Carolina. It's absolutely beautiful. But when I came home, I realized how beautiful home was, and so I had to go away to understand. But it is a beautiful place. It is a tranquil place. I know Jason Davidson's working very hard to make Jackson County schools the best they can be. Amy Childress is doing the same thing at Scottsboro. Brian Jett over in Fort Payne, Wayne Lyles in DeKalb County. I mean, they're working very hard to make sure that our schools are preparing our young people, and so parents can have trust knowing that they can take their children to our schools. And some homeschool, some do private schools, and that we've got good private schools, good church schools. But when you go back to that, I want to be able to trust where I am. I mean, to me, it was always the greatest compliment in the world when somebody said, "Here's your child for the next 8 hours."
Right.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
It's powerful. And so
wow.
It's a blessing, and it's something that, I know they take serious here. I've always taken it serious as a responsibility, because the power to teach somebody, it's just like the power you have from the pulpit. The power to teach somebody is the power to mold minds, and you're changing the future. And
absolutely.
We're blessed here.
Yes, we
absolutely.
Well, thank you again. I really, man, I have enjoyed this. We will do this again next year if you're willing to come back.
Absolutely. Honored that you asked.
Yeah, man, I have enjoyed myself thoroughly, and I've learned a lot, and I've learned a little bit more about you, and
good. Same
I
here.
appreciate that, and it's wonderful, and I hope everybody else has learned a little bit too. Those of you that sent in questions, my computer died, so if you came in after the computer died, sorry about your bad luck. Should have got in here earlier. Amen. Before I leave tonight, I always like to say the blessing over everybody that's watching. I appreciate all you guys that tune in, all that you do to support what we're doing here. And I know this is a little rinky-dink podcast right here in the middle of nowhere, but I do appreciate the opportunity to come into your homes and into your lives just for a little while every week. Thank you for all your support, all that you do for us here, and I do, ask that you continue to pray for us. But that being said, may the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And may the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Until next time, God bless you. Thank you for tuning in one more time.
Amen.
Thank you for meeting us at the creek, and we hope you enjoyed today's podcast. If you have questions or comments you'd like for us to read, send those to mudcreekpastor@gmail.com. Again, that's mudcreekpastor@gmail.com. Thank you for meeting us at the creek, and we'll see you next time.